Sean Lyons, head coach at SIUE, seventh season with the Cougars. Team was picked sixth in the preseason poll, won 27 games last year. So, Coach, general thoughts on coming into this year?
We enter the spring and this fall, I guess we entered the fall, and a lot of newcomers. We lost quite a few players from last year, especially on the mound. It's going to be a totally different look when it comes defensively for us and with guys on the mound. But that's exciting, with the guys that we've brought in. And, we do have quite a bit returning offensively, even though we have some huge losses with guys like Brett Johnson and Richie Well and whatnot, guys that produced a lot for us offensively last year. And then with the losses on the mound of, Colin Baumgartner and Noah Matheny and Cade Carnes, those are big shoes to fill, but I think we kind of hit the ground running in the fall. Took a little while to kind of figure out what we got, who we got, and whatnot. But it was an exciting off season, and I think everybody's kind of geared up and ready to kick things off next week.
So you talk about newcomers to the OVC too. 3 new teams. The transfer portal obviously brings newcomers in, but just what are your thoughts generally about the OVC? And I know you don't know exactly what to expect, but having new teams and new rivalries and things like that.
Yeah, well, I think time will tell. I think there's definitely going to be some freshness to it for everybody that has been here. Some new places to play, new faces to see, and kind of get acclimated to that kind of thing. I think all 3 additions are quality programs. You've got a couple going to be making their Division I debuts, but both are quality Division II programs coming into here. So I don't think that's going to be a letdown or anything like that when it comes to facing those opponents. And obviously Chris and the Little Rock team, coming out of the Sun Belt, that's going to be quality competition right out the gate. And obviously the coaches poll shows the respect that we have for that program.
If I had to make you say one thing that's the biggest strength of your team this year, what would you say the biggest strength is?
That's a really good question, Kyle. I think honestly, the biggest strength that we have is the way this group has come together. We had so many new faces in the fall, and the way they've kind of come together and work, as a team, and the excitement that they bring and energy they bring to practice every day has really been good for me as a head coach to see that these guys are that way. But if you want a baseball answer, I'm going to say it's probably the 4 or 5 guys that we return offensively for us from last year's team. With Brady Bunton and Josh Ohl and Brennan Orff and Avery Owusu-Asidu and Ole Arnson, all guys that have a ton of returning at bats. I think that would probably be the strength at this point.
And your team played really well in the OVC tournament last year. You won 2 games. I know there's some different players, but you were very offensive in the tournament too. So how can you, even though there's new players, how can you use sort of that experience last year at the end of the year to, help this year when we get to the end of the season or to the tournament?
Yeah, well, I think what it really did was those guys that are returning, they kind of, what if you want to say, see what it takes? I mean, it just brought some excitement to them at the end of the year that they could carry on over into this year. Now, if you really look at our schedule from last year, even though we have so many new players, the number of 1-run games that we played in last year, I think really kind of helps mold or give some, experience to the guys that do return. And with a core of guys returning offensively, I think that energy that came from last May or the little run there at the end of the year, I think can carry over into this season.
Sort of have asked this, but is there something this year's team has maybe that last year's didn't? Is there a spark or something besides maybe the togetherness that you have, or maybe you haven't found that yet?
Well, I think we have. I think one of the big keys as a coach, when you play other opponents, this is a little side, like when you talk about it, you look at a team, you go, man, that team is veteran. And they have guys that just put up tough at bats. We've got 5 or 6 guys that'll be in the lineup that you look at them and you look at the maturity over the last 3 years, as they've been in the program, like, man, that is a tough out. And so we're hoping that experience that those guys have can really, whether it's put pressure or just make every team earn the outs that they get against us. And I think that's that's one of the things that I really look forward to seeing out of guys like Brady Bunton and Josh Ole and those names that I mentioned earlier.
Joe, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Nothing specific. I mean, really my thought kind of was, and you answered this to some extent, but when you talk about the guys that were there for that OVC run, you make that, you get to the second to last day. Does that also give you a little bit of, like a carrot in front of you, I guess? I mean, does it allow those guys to be like, man, here we were a day from being in that last day? I mean, that's got to be some strong motivation too.
Well, I think for the guys, obviously the guys that return, which is less than half the roster, unfortunately. But I think the big thing from that takeaway, Joe, is hey, we've got quality guys and guys that play at a high level, and we just got to answer the bell, because you look at the preseason rankings here. You guys had a lot of momentum last year. You're picked 6th. You can either look at that and look at it as a negative, or you can look at that as, hey, you got something to prove, and I think it speaks to our league, honestly, to how things shook out, the strength that we do have. I think a lot of the coaches, I haven't listened to all of them, feel really good about the teams that they have, and rightfully so, as a coach, knowing the teams in the league and what they've got. So I think our guys look at it, and whether you call it motivation, but they say, hey, it's our time to kind of earn some respect and get what, build off of the energy that we had at the end last year.
Again, new players, but last year you all hit 99 home runs, hit 303 as a team. I know you'd like to have those again. Do you expect that, or is it a little bit different with those players? But you have the players like Brady and you were mentioning who have done that for you.
Well, as an offensive guy, I'd love to say we're going to hit 90 home runs every year. That's the kind of baseball I like. I enjoy. Losing Brett Johnson, I mean, that was 20 plus of the home runs that we had. Those are some really big shoes to fill, and really excited for him. With what he's doing in his career in professional baseball. But I do think we have a lineup that is very potent to put up similar type numbers. We return, multiple guys that have the ability to hit double-digit home runs. And, sometimes you get lucky, you get hot, the weather, you get wind blowing out, all that good stuff that really helps build those types of numbers of home runs. But I do think that, I feel pretty good that we have a middle of a lineup that's going to be pretty formidable.
And let's talk lastly about your schedule. And you got some warm weather places to go early, but just in the non-conference, what you're expecting when you see some of these teams.
Yeah, as we go south, we're obviously chasing warm weather. We pretty consistently we go play a Southland team to kind of start the year, because I think that's a very good competition, competitive league for us to go south and play. And we got some non-conference schedule with, Missouri State here, or, to go on the road before we start conference season. I think that'll be a really good test to see kind of where we're at. We open up at home in March with Western Illinois here, and also with UIC. I think it's a really good non-conference schedule that we've put together. And then also, it's going to be a bear in the OVC, regardless of who you're playing. You got to play a high level of baseball to compete and finish at the top, near the top of the league. One thing I know you're asking about scheduling already. I do want to talk a little bit just on the pitching side for us, and I'm not trying to take too long here, but we don't return a lot from last year on the mound, but we do return Jake Bockenstedt. Jake was our main guy out of the bullpen last year. He is going to transition into the rotation. And I really think he'll have an opportunity to flourish, for us and kind of be the mainstay for us in that regard. But we've got a plethora of new arms of guys, likely Hayden Cooper, T. Conrad, a couple junior college transfers. Those 2 guys that are going to come in that are going to really help us as well on the mound. But there's a lot of new faces for fans to see and hopefully for the league to learn about as we get moving in through the season.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time this morning, and best of luck to you and SIUE this upcoming season.
Well, I appreciate it, Kyle. Thank you very much.